a famous line from actor Humphrey Bogart that goes, "The whole world is 3 drinks behind." He went on to explain, if Stalin, Truman and everybody else in the world had 3 drinks right now, we'd all loosen up and we wouldn't need the United Nations. Now, Bogart was expressing his frustration at the panicky state of the world at the end of 1950. Everyone was super tense and a little bit traumatised. But I don't know, Michael. I look around at this whole woke mess and think that maybe they're all 10 drinks ahead of us, stumbling into hedges and falling down in the street. I mean, the UN is definitely plastered, judging by their decisions. Are we looking at the final drunken days of woke? As you wrote in your recent article, is the end of woke nigh?
Well, let's say I really hope so, but I'm willing to stand by that prediction, even though I'm not a betting man. But it's interesting that the UN, which came from the League of Nations, it is basically, I call this institutional exhaustion. Its original purpose is no longer being served, and we're seeing that it is just not really achieving what it's meant to achieve. And the sort of discovery of what's happened in October 7 in Israel is really an indication that the UN is off the rails, and that's something that needs to be brought back. It's a real problem, though. The rules-based world order is very important for our peace and stability, particularly for the economy. But of course, that's been changing since the COVID pandemic as well. So look, I think we're in for a rough trip, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a new version of the UN occur over time, like we saw with the League of Nations.
I was going to say, they keep trying the same idea and it doesn't work every time. League of Nations failed, World War. United Nations fail, I'm sure it'll be another world war. It just, you can't stop humans from being humans. And I suspect, and this is just a personal aside, that the more you try and stave off little disputes, you end up creating these giant global disputes. I don't think it's a very helpful practice to sort of store your rage until everyone creates little rage alliances. I mean, look at Europe. Do you think that these talks about things like conscription is a sign that there's a real problem on the horizon?
Well, a lot of this is to do with the sort of move away from nationalism and seeing pride in our nation as a bad thing. But I think part of the issue is that for many conservatives, we don't really, we tend to sort of rage against what's happening and discuss, sort of exhibit that outrage. But often the critique is that we don't offer solutions. But the problem is socialists offer solutions all the time because they want to control everything. Whereas if you look at a liberal democracy, it's meant to be where individuals get to make their own choices. They're not being told what to do. And you need a decent, a liberal education to be able to do that. And so what we're finding is that because we've moved away from a liberal education, people are being told what to think and they're actively doing that, then they're not going to serve in their militaries. And this is a major problem. You know, people forget that we actually had an aggressor who was attacking this country only a few generations ago. And if it wasn't for the Americans in particular, we'd be speaking a different language now. And people really forget that. And, you know, I just don't think that it's not unrealistic that this could happen again and in the very near future.
Well, we've been playing clips up there while you're talking, showing the new generation of kids who seem to be so confused about their identity that they're engaging in some of this radical ideology. Now, I don't see those kids being capable of defending the country against a genuine hot war and an aggressor when they don't even know what gender they are. And that's a real problem for the West. And I don't think that people truly understand that nations and humanity doesn't change that much. We understand each other as nations through the way we behave in wars. And I mean, we haven't cured war.